Good morning, everyone.
Good.
And welcome back to the Dharma School students. And I hope you enjoyed the summer break and enjoying the new school year. Recently I met a professor from Otani University in Kyoto, and he's much older than me. He grew up in Kanazawa City, and I also grew up in Kanazawa City. So that we talked about what school we went to. The conversation made me think about wanting me to go back to Kanazawa. And I haven't visited Kanazawa for a really long time, but food is good in Kanazawa, and it is a really beautiful city. And Kanazawa is in between two rivers, just like Portland. And population is about the same. So when I first moved to Portland, I felt like, kind of natsukashi, the nostalgic feelings. But anyway, this is Saigawa River. And I went to two different middle schools because we moved within Kanazawa City and school district was different. The first middle school I went to was close to this Saigawa River. And I still think it is interesting, but Japanese schools have strict rules. Not anyone can ride a bicycle to the school. There are certain areas of the school boundaries where you can ride a bike to school. And the temple my family was living in, Kanazawa, was just a block away from permission to ride a bike to school. So I had to walk to school, and it took 30 minutes every morning. Okay? And I was in basketball team, and the team had practice after the school. And we had practice until around 5 p.m. or so. And my team always made us run like 8 miles every day. So I was already tired when I go home. But I had to walk back home, taking 30 minutes every day, and thinking about it, I don't think I can do it anymore. But anyway, along the Saigawa River was my walking course to the school. And when we say this side as this shore, then how do we call this side of the river? Other shore, right? So the view we see from this shore and other shore is different. So I will talk about this later in my Dharma talk. But then, how about this? If we call the left side person as myself, then how do we call right side person? Well, actually, this is a difficult question. But let's say this is other person, right? So the feeling of ourselves and others are different. Just like how the views of this shore and other shore is different. So what we think as fun could be boring for others. What we think as fun could be offending to others too. So how we see and think are different from how others see and think. So we usually focus on the view from this shore, the view of the self. But this Ohigan service, other shore service, gives us opportunity to think about the view from the other side, the view of the others. Okay? So at least today, or this week, if you can do it longer, maybe this year, please listen to others' opinions carefully. And I am sure that it will broaden your view of the world. Okay? So thank you for coming back, Dharma School students. And in closing, please join me in Gassho. Please put your palms together. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 And now I would like to share the words of Master Hyun quoted in our founder Shinan Shonin's master work, Kyogyo Shinshu. So please join me in that show. Please put your palms together. 今日せよ十最小道というは仏式に重視たも一人非でたまえること等しきことなきがゆえにと Today the preeminent one of the world abides in the supreme enlightenment. The Buddha alone, and much less as he abides in the four forms of wisdom, is completely unrivaled. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Nam. So it's really nice to see, few people coming back to the temple physically. And it's really nice to see some of the new people attending the service today. And it's really a beautiful day today. Yesterday was, I don't know, it was really beautiful too. I was outside practicing Kung Fu, and I almost fainted because of the heat. So please drink a lot of water while you're outside. But anyway, last year, we, Oregon Buddhist Temple, hosted the Northwest District Convention online, and I believe it was a successful convention. Right? And this year, Idaho Oregon Buddhist Temple in Ontario, Oregon, hosted the convention in person and online, so it was hybrid. And more than 10 people from Oregon Buddhist Temple went to Ontario, Oregon physically. And it was really nice to see people from our temples in person for the first time in a long time. And I drove to Ontario with Judy, and on the way to Ontario, taking I-84, we see the wind farm, right? A lot of turbines. So we thought there are a lot of turbines around Columbia Gorge when we were heading to Ontario from Portland. So we were talking about who owns, these turbines and how much electricity the turbines makes, how much does it cost to maintain, and so on. But actually, there was an answer on the Wikipedia. So those who are interested can Google wind from Columbia Gorge, and then you will find the answers to these kind of questions. But on the way home from Ontario, when we passed by the same spot, we saw totally different view. There were much more turbines than we saw on the way to Ontario. And I don't know how many turbines are there actually, but I think I said, wow, right? So I am sure that there were so many of them. And we were talking about how the view looks different. And we figured, on the way to Ontario, we drove under the hill, so we could see only the part of the wind farm. But on the way home, I-84 westbound is placed probably higher than I-84 eastbound. So we could see a full picture of the wind farm. So this is why the view was so different from on the way to Ontario and to home. So this is related to today's Dharma talk, or Dharma school talk. What we see from this shore, our side and other shore is different. Our view of the ordinary beings, and the view of the Buddha, the awakened, is totally different. And there is a Mahayana Buddhist school called Yogacara. And Yogacara literally means the one whose practice is yoga. But they are known for the idea of Vijnapti mantra, which means consciousness only. But my teacher likes to translate consciousness only as representation only. So I use the translation, representation only. And this is one of the philosophies which the late Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, you know Thich Nhat Hanh, right? he learned when he was a novice monk. And since he's very popular Buddhist monk, and he wrote a book about it, book about Yogacara, I am assuming we will hear more about representation of this school in the United States. But in this school, the Yogacara, there are ideas of 8 consciousness and the 3 natures. So 8 consciousness are these 8, and manas and alaya are subconscious, so that we are not able to sense the working of it. But every experience and the impressions are stored in alaya consciousness, and we are projecting the experiences and impression from alaya consciousness outside of ourselves. So the world we see now is nothing but representation of our mind. So this is the basic idea of Vijayarati mantra. And if you feel like it's already overwhelmed, then probably Yogacara is not the school you want to study. Okay? Maybe Jodo Shinshu is not perfect. So, but you know, I didn't know that this figure has a name. But this is called Kanitsa triangle. Kanitsa triangle. And I have shared this figure a long, long time ago. So some of you might remember this, but do you see the white triangle in the middle? Do you see it? Do you see it? Okay. So actually, there is no white triangle. But the shapes of the black figures makes us feel like there is a white triangle. And I don't know that I didn't know this either, but this is called a subjective contour, C-O-N-T-O-U-R. You know, but this is the example of how we rely on our visual and how our visual is unreliable. It's easily be fooled, right? But we attach to our view and ideas so that we want to believe that there is a white triangle in the middle. So this is called imaginary. So we rely on our experiences and impressions and project it to outside world. And everybody has different world outside of the self. So it is called imaginary world. It is not the true and real, just representation of our mind. And on the other hand, the awakened, the Buddha, sees things as they are. So probably looking at this Kanitsa triangle, the Buddha would say, there are only black figures. And I don't know, I'm not a Buddha yet, so I cannot speak for Buddha. Buddha sees this triangle, but it is totally different from how we see the world. And because Buddha doesn't rely on the 8 consciousness, okay? Buddha transformed this 8 consciousness into the 4 wisdom. 4 wisdom. So this is the same 4 wisdom which was referred to in the word of Master Hyun I shared at the beginning. Okay? And according to the Yogacara, the 8 consciousness transforms into wisdom as one's practice moves forward. So possessing the 4 wisdom is one of the qualities of the Buddha. So the 4 great perfect mirror wisdom. So, you know, just like the calm lake or river reflects the scenery as is, Buddha's wisdom reflects everything as they are. And wisdom of equality, the wisdom to know everything is equal. So this is really interesting that it is said manas, affected consciousness, which attached to the self, transforms into the wisdom to know everything is equal. But you know, this is a big differences between ordinary beings and Buddha, right? we attach to the self, but Buddha is free from the attachment to the self. And Buddha sees everything equal. And third one is wisdom of specific knowledge. This is the wisdom to contemplate on all the phenomena as they are. And the last one, the wisdom of having accomplished what was to be done. This is the wisdom to save all beings after accomplishing what the one need to be done. So the Buddha is the one who experienced the transformation of the consciousness and possesses this kind of wisdom. So the view of ordinary beings is relying on our consciousness, but the Buddha view is relying on the wisdom. So it's totally different. So we attach to our self-centered views and distinguish what is good and bad, like and dislike, love and hate. But the Buddha's view is based on the equality. So Buddha sees things as they are. There is no distinction of things. So our wisdom is called discriminative wisdom, to distinguish things and people through our self-centered views. But Buddha's wisdom is called non-discriminative wisdom, to see things as they are. And from this non-discriminative wisdom, Buddha is teaching us how we should live this life. It is not to live with not realizing that we live with our self-centered views. But Buddha is teaching us, calling us to wake up to the reality that we are relying on the self-centered views, and we are hurting each other through self-centered views. So self-reflect on the nature of self-centeredness and rely on the wisdom of Buddha. This is what Buddhism is teaching us, and Buddhism is teaching how we should live this life. And this is a calling of Buddha from the other shore. So finally, since today's Ohigan, if I use the metaphor of Master Chantal's two rivers and the white path, two honored ones, awakened ones, Amida and Shakyamuni, are teaching us to go the white path of Nembutsuge and live with Nembutsuge amidst the anger and greed we possess within ourselves. We ordinary beings are not able to extinguish the three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. But we can loosen the working of the three poisons by relying on the wisdom of Buddha. Amida Buddha calls from the other shore, come this way, come this path. And Shakyamuni Buddha calls us from this shore to go this path. So two awakened ones who possesses the full wisdom are teaching us to walk the path of Nembutsuge. So we just follow the guidance of Buddhas. And throughout our lives, we live with self-reflection and self-reflection of our self-centered nature, and appreciate Buddha for guiding us to the path we should walk. So I am sure my talk was not easy to grasp with just listening once, but I hope you are able to rewatch it on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed on our YouTube channel yet, please subscribe so you can watch the video again and again. But if you didn't understand, that's okay. I can talk about the same thing on the spring or next year, so I don't have to prepare another time after that. But anyway, so I like to conclude my talk with Gassho and Nembutsu. So please, Gassho, please put your palms together. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namman Butsu. Namman.